Today, we're going to talk about two business owners of the same age, the same revenue, and the same industry. But one is trapped working 60 hours per week. The other, he's taking 12 weeks off every single year. Did you catch it? The same revenue, the same market, yet two radically different lives. Look, friends, success doesn't always equal wealth. Think about that. Sometimes the more you work, the less your business is worth. Now, whether you're a financial advisor, a consultant, service-based business owner, car repair person, pool builder, it doesn't matter. This episode, it's going to stop you in your tracks. Today, I'm going to do something I've never done before. We're going to dive into two real-life financial advisor clients that I coach. Both are running $2 million revenue businesses. The exact same revenue. I mean, it's almost to the penny, but they have drastically different outcomes. Friends, and if you want to see every number, every mindset, every strategy in black and white, and some pretty color graphics, go ahead and grab the full case study in the link below. You're going to want to keep it handy for this particular podcast. This one is going to be fun. I was thinking I've never done this before. I've never worked through real life clients in a comparison format. Years ago, I built a case study of dentist to dentist, and I built a case study for a couple of different construction businesses, but I've never done one that relates to the Decamillionaire Way framework. And so today's going to be a lot of fun. You see, most business owners believe that revenue equals freedom. That is such a fascinating mindset to me. Man, the more money I can get, the freer I will be. But often more revenue without teams and systems only brings more hours, more stress, and more dependency. Both of these advisors came to me for coaching. The second advisor I've been coaching now for many years. The first advisor is brand new. They had the same goals. Man, they want more time. They want more clarity about who they serve. They want more peace. They don't want to wake up at night and wonder about the what ifs. What if that new client leaves? What if the big client leaves? What if my team member leaves? What if compliance comes in? What if? They don't want that. They wanted freedom. Freedom of mind, freedom of pocketbook, freedom of calendar. One of them, on paper, man, it looks like he's winning the race. If I compare them side by side, one of them looks like he's winning the race. He's got bigger profit. However, he's got longer hours. The other one has less profit, but more margin in every sense of the way. The one who made less, get this, the advisor who is making less in net income actually walked away with almost $4 million more in their pocket. Think about that. Today, we're going to break down the real numbers, the mindsets behind them, and what this means for your freedom and your legacy. Ready? Let's dive in. So we're going to go through two different advisors. These are both business owners. They both are running hyper successful businesses. So we want to dissect what each of them are doing and then ultimately what the net results are. So let's work on advisor one. Advisor one is 49 years of age. They've been in business now 12 years, not a rookie. Revenue is $2 million in revenue. Friends, for those of you who are not in the professional services space, this is not chump change. This is a good, solid business. $2 million. Now, the reason why I say for those of you not in the professional services, because I know contractors who, they may have their cost of goods being $1 million and the gross profit's only, 800,000, but the top line revenue could be significantly higher. But in the professional services, there's not a lot of cost of goods. So $2 million in revenue for a financial advisor, man, that's a nice little business. The profit, the actual take-home pay, $1.26 million, 63% margin. Sounds good, doesn't it? I mean, who wouldn't want to make $1.26 million gross before taxes? Sounds really good. 63% profit margin. Here was the problem. 3,024 hours worked. 3,024 hours. We actually tracked it. They worked on average 63 hours per week, 48 weeks a year. Let that one sink in. Now, if you do the math, you say $1.26 million, the net revenue divided by 3,024, that means that this advisor's production is about $416 an hour. So that means every time they're working, supposedly in the business, $416 an hour rate. Not bad. That's more than many attorneys will bill an hourly rate. The team was 3 staff people, and the business owner was only investing about $50,000 into the team in terms of new technology, new training, various things. Why? Because he had very minimum delegation. You see, he had this interesting mindset of beliefs. He had this perfectionism mindset where he said literally things like, no one can do it as well as me. I'm the guy who has to do it. And then he had this analysis paralysis. We've all heard that before. You're overthinking and you kill the momentum. I cannot tell you. Literally, it fascinates me to the point of frustration, not for me, but for the people that we have the privilege to talk to. So we do a free strategy call for business owners who are serious about growing their company and is considering working with a coach. We'll be more than happy to do a free strategy call with you. And some of those calls I take, some of my team takes. And whenever I'm listening, I hear people talk about their aspirations, their dreams, their calling, whatever the term is, but yet they end up being paralyzed because of their analysis. And that's what this individual was doing. He wasn't moving at the rate he needed to move at because he was overanalyzing. And he had this scarcity mentality. He honestly said this to me. He said, dude, if I hire more people, it's going to cut my margin. I'm making $1.26 million a year, but if I hire more people, I'm not going to make as much money. This false identity he was dealing with of I am the business killed him. See, for so many of us, we've been told that when we work harder, it builds security. People need us. And therefore, we are secure in our income. We're secure in our position. We're secure in our identity. But in business, working harder builds dependency. And the more your business is dependent upon you, the less it's worth. So with certain mindsets come certain consequences. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So in this particular mindset, the equal reaction was they had more net income, but the opposite reaction, the negative reaction to it was this individual had plateaued at $2 million for 3 years. They weren't seeing any top line growth and their margins were kind of stagnant. 63% margins with over 3,000 hours being worked. You might imagine it led to burnout. It led to burnout in the sense of how long can they continue this? There were no vacations. There was no family time. He literally said, Justin, I want to spend time with my family. I want to go on vacation, but I can't. Every time I try to get away, somebody needs me. Well, not only was the owner feeling it, the clients were feeling it. The clients felt like that the owner was constantly being reactive in nature, that there was delays happening. The team felt like, man, every time we try to move forward, we can't. We have internal bottlenecks. And most importantly, friends, if we're on this journey to Decamillionaire, this individual's valuation suffered greatly. Now, we're going to get to valuation here at the end because I want you to hear this side by side. There was a statement, however, that actually caught this business owner's attention. They had just completed, as they told me, they had just completed a client meeting and they ushered the client up to the reception area in the front as talking to the receptionist about scheduling the next call. And the owner began to walk away. And as he was walking down the hallway, he heard the client say, quote, if he ever steps away, I don't know who we'd call. In that moment, it was almost like a mic had dropped. The light bulb had gone off in this owner's eyes. And he said, I have created a prison. His words, not mine. I've created a prison for myself. I'm reminded of a psalm that David wrote. It's in Psalms 127. It says, it is vain, it is vanity to rise up early and go to bed late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. Anxious toil. This hustle rooted in fear, this operating in constant anxiety. David went on to write in that psalm, he said, God gives his beloved sleep. He gives them rest, not fear, not anxiety. And that's where this owner had found himself. He was constantly toiling, waking up at night, wondering, what if that client leaves? What if my team members leave? What if I get sick? When am I going to be able to take a vacation? When is the bank account gonna actually reflect the hours I've spent? That's where this owner was. Now, this owner was actually a Christian. He was a believer. And as he related to me, he said he was in church on Sunday and the minister was talking about the parable of the talents. I've used this parable a lot in the sense that the good master gave 5 talents to one of his stewards, gave 2 talents to another steward, and gave 1 talent to yet another steward. And he went away for a period of time. Often it's thought that it was a season or 2 seasons. Some may even anticipate that it could have been about 18 months or so. And while he was gone, the person with 5 talents invested it properly and it grew to 10. The person with 2 talents invested it properly and it grew to 4. But the person with 1 talent didn't invest it. They actually buried it in the sand because they were scared. They were fearful. And they actually said, hey, look, we know that you're a shrewd business owner is what basically they're saying. And the good master looked at the person with 1 and said, you wicked and lazy servant, you wicked and lazy steward. You wicked and lazy person. And this business owner, as he and I were talking through on the free strategy call, he said, Justin, I feel like I'm wicked and lazy. Now think about that. This is coming from a business owner who's hyper successful. He's already achieved greater than 95% of the financial advisors in the marketplace. He's not lazy. He's working 3,000 hours. But as he said it, Justin, I'm not doubling my valuation. If the good master left me with this talent of my business, I'm not doubling it as the person with 5 doubled it and the person with 2 doubled it. I've been stuck for 3 years. I make a few progresses forward and then I fall back. Here's what ultimately happened. This advisor number 1 was building a paycheck, not a company. And that's where so many of us find ourselves. Perhaps that's you. Perhaps you are making more money, more income than you've ever made in your life. But with that income comes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of stress. That's where this advisor was sitting. The control to him, as he said, Justin, the control, I like being in control because it feels like it feels safe to me. If something happens, I know I can fix it. But as I illustrated to him, friend, it's the most expensive habit that you have is you gaining control. So that's our first advisor. Friend, there's another way, a radically different path, because another advisor, same exact revenue, same exact age, chose to let go. And he multiplied through others. And what he gained wasn't just his time. It was ultimate enterprise value. Let me introduce you to another one of my clients, 49 years of age, 10 years in business, not quite as long as the first person, $2 million in revenue, same exact revenue, almost to the penny. Profit margin was only $1.02 million, $1,020,000. He only has a 51% profit margin, whereas our first advisor had a 63% profit margin. Here's where the delta begins. He worked 720 hours. That is roughly 20 hours a week for 36 weeks. Now, if you remember our advisor number 1, what did he do? He did close to 3,025 hours. He worked 63 hours a week for 48 weeks. Yet advisor number 2, producing almost the same amount of money with, instead of a 63% profit margin, a 51% profit margin, worked 20 hours a week for 36 weeks a year. He took a significant more time off. When you run the efficiency, his hourly rate is $1,400 an hour. Compare that to our very first advisor. Our very first advisor was $416 per hour. So here we go with this advisor number 2 making $1,000 an hour more than advisor number 1. On his team, he had 6 staff people versus 3. And he was investing $200,000 a year into annual team investments. He was hiring coaches to teach his team. He was taking them to conferences. He was providing transitional bonuses for them and incentive-based bonuses. He had cross-trained and empowered and documented processes. Everything did not flow through him. Now, in full disclosure, it took us about 2.5 years to build this system out. When he came to me, he was just like advisor number 1. But we worked for 2 years, and now this is his story as of late. There was a difference in his mindset. Advisor number 2 had this idea of progress over progression. He literally says on a regular basis, 80% done is enough to scale. See, advisor number one would never say that. The first advisor, man, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be 100%. We got to have perfection here. No, not advisor two. 80% done is enough to scale. He had another mindset difference, and that was this. He realized that multiplication happened through others. He actually says this statement on a regular basis to himself. I get more done through others. Think about that. Totally contrary to the first advisor. First advisor said, no, I need to be in control. It needs to run through me. Second advisor said, no. I'll get more done whenever they succeed, not me. He had this mindset of thinking in terms of investment. I don't pay people, I buy back my time. I'm reminded of scripture. It says, redeeming the time, buying back your time because the days are evil, because the days in front of us could be dangerous. So I want to redeem my time. I want to buy back my time. That's a scriptural principle. He actually believes that. Look, I don't pay people, I buy back my time. And then he is focused on leadership. I don't just manage people, I multiply leaders. Friends, these are statements that he said in our meeting that we took our AI to pull the statements of his mindset out. Think about the difference between these two. And then finally, he said, I'm not the business. I'm the builder of a business. So I want you to listen to the statements again from advisor one. These are his exact statements that came out of the transcript. No one can do it as well as me. I'm the person who has to make things happen. I am the business. Man, if I hire people, hiring cuts into my margin. Oh, yeah. I know I'm guilty of overthinking, but man, when I overthink things, I know it kills momentum, but I just want to make sure I don't mess up. Those were the exact statements, word for word. Here's the second advisor. 80% done is enough to scale. I get done more through others. I don't pay people, I buy back my time. I don't just manage, I multiply leaders. I'm not the business. I'm the builder of the business. You see, advisor number two, business owner number two, realize this. Your highest value isn't in what you do. It's in what you build. So what are the results? Advisor number two had 15% year-over-year growth, 12 weeks of dedicated vacation time. He had delegated client delivery, onboarding, and operations. And his valuation, it was at a premium. Whenever we were talking with their team recently at a team event, their team says, the business owner, I've changed it for the innocent, but Michael, let's call him Michael. Michael empowers us. We feel like we're building something together that matters. That was what the team actually said. I'm reminded of an African proverb that I've quoted many times on the channel, and it says, go fast, go alone, go far, go together. In Exodus 18, it actually states this, you and the people will certainly wear yourselves out. You're not going to be able to do it alone. That's literally what Jethro is warning Moses about. Look, you can't do this alone. You've got to delegate to others, else the road is going to collapse. You're going to wear yourself out. Now, I'm reminded of the parable that advisor number one mentioned, the parable of the talents. If I were to apply that same parable as was taught in the church service to advisor number two, I can't help but think advisor number two would get the well done, thy good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over little. Now I'm going to set you over much. That's where my mind goes to when I think about the contrast of these two. You see, advisor number two, he gave up a little profit. 200 grand. Who cares? 200 grand. He gave it up, but he gained back his life. Advisor number two realized that buyers don't pay you for your hustle. They pay you for your systems. Let me say that again in case I went too fast just then. Your future buyer, the person who's going to assess the value of your company, they do not care how hard you work. They do not care how hard you hustle. They're going to pay you for your systems. You see, freedom isn't just a perk. This concept of freedom, we talk about freedom in our podcast. We talk about the Decamillionaire way. The last step on the journey to be a Decamillionaire is freedom. Freedom of what? Freedom of time, freedom of pocketbook, freedom of calendar, freedom of resources, freedom of talent, freedom to be who you are and not give a flying flip what people think about you. How liberating is that? Freedom is not just a perk. It's the best financial strategy that you more than likely have never used. Did you hear me on that, friends? freedom is the best strategy that you probably have never used. Especially if you're a financial advisor right now, you're going, dude, advisor number 2 was making the same amount of money and he lost. He gave up $240,000 in profit. That's $240,000 that could have gone in his pocket. That is a stupid decision. That is such a loss. But hear me, friends. I'm like trying to contain my excitement here because this right here is where things got stupid interesting. When it came time for both businesses to be valued, the one with less income ended up being worth millions of dollars more. Did you hear that? Maybe I wasn't going too fast. Let me slow that one down. A little slower here for you. Yes, number 2, the second advisor didn't take home $240,000 in annual profit that advisor number 1 did. But when the valuations came in, advisor number 2, who took home $240,000 less in net operating income, take-home pay, ended up having a business worth millions of dollars more. Why? This is why we call our program Relentless Value Coaching. Because if you build a business properly, the value of your company will go through the stratosphere. It is ridiculous. You don't have to work for decades in order to build an 8-figure to become a decamillionaire. You can do it within a short time frame, but it's only through a proven framework. So let's put them side by side. Friends, I'm super stoked on this because this shows the power of value growth. These are 2 live clients. I can call them on the cell phone right now. Both of these individuals had reached a point in their life where they had to make a decision. Both of them are making a decision. One just happens to be 2 years ahead of the other. Here's where the data points fall. And this is why we put together a case study so you can actually see this. So if you want to click the link below in the show notes, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on any of our podcast channels, go ahead and click the link below and download this case study. Look at it. It'll blow your mind. This is why value is such an important data point. It is far more important than NOI. Now, cash flow is good. I'm not knocking cash flow. Both of them had cash flow, but value matters. Advisor number 1 had $1.26 million in EBITDA, annual profit, EBITDA, is what we're going to call it. That was the actual EBITDA number. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. So advisor number 1, 1.26. Advisor number 2, 1.02. Can we say $240,000 less in EBITDA on advisor 2? However, the multiples assessed to advisor 1 from the valuation firm was 8.2, but the multiple for advisor number 2 was 10.1. So when you look at the valuation, they both came in roughly about 10.3 million. Here's where it got magical. When advisor number 1 was looking to exit, it had a 3-year earnout requirement. Advisor number 2 did not have one. Mostly a full cash walkaway deal. In fact, when we looked at the post-tax walkaway money, advisor number 1 was 6.7 million. And depending on how they performed on some of the earnouts, advisor number 2 was going to be 9.7 to 10.1. When we dive even further, advisor number 1 had 80% recurring revenue and advisor number 2 had 100% recurring revenue. So what gave advisor number 2 the premium? The first thing is that advisor number 2 had 100% recurring revenue and advisor number 1 only had 80% recurring revenue. Recurring revenue, friends, for those of you who don't think this way, it provides a predictable income stream. It's easier to underwrite whenever you're putting a valuation on a business. It actually reduces the buyer risk and creates a valuation stability. So advisor number 2 had 100% recurring and advisor number 1 had 80% recurring. Get this, it was an RIA. It didn't have commissions. The difference is advisor number 2 had put all their financial planning agreements on a recurring revenue model, whereas advisor number 1 had done financial planning agreements on a one and done deal. They were both doing the exact same business. That is what's amazing to me. Advisor number 2 got the premium in their valuation because they had a documented and detailed CRM, including automations and triggers. They were using Redtail. Redtail's not a bad software out there. It's nowhere near Salesforce or Zoho or some of the other ones, but it's not a bad software. Advisor number 2 was using Redtail. Advisor number 1 was using Redtail, but advisor number 2 had documented every process in the CRM. It had automations and templates and everything in the CRM. Advisor number 1, they never had enough time to do with that. In fact, besides, all those things doesn't really matter until the value came in. Advisor number 2 had cross-trained teams. He had 6 people cross-trained to handle the operation. Advisor number 1 had 3 people. The buyer could not step into advisor number 1 without rebuilding the staff. But advisor number 2, they could buy the company and it could operate. They just had to find 1 or 2 junior advisors to step in. The inflow of the clients for advisor number 2, the second business owner, which gave us the higher value, it was 15% annual growth trajectory. It had built-in momentum. It had built-in value, but advisor number 1 has stagnated. He couldn't take on any more work. He was literally working daylight till dark, 63 hours a week. Advisor number 2, who had the higher value, had 0 owner dependence. He had pretty much extracted himself from almost all the client-facing work. And just the hire of 1, maybe 2 junior advisors, he could be completely exited. Advisor number 1, nope, didn't have anybody to step in. Now, when we looked at it, here's what we discovered. And these are some industry notables from the financial world, but for every industry, there's notables out there. I was doing some work with one of our clients who's in the auto repair company. We were looking at some data points in their particular niche. And every business out there has some industry data sources. So for the financial advisor space, FP Transitions is a really popular data source. What's interesting to me is FP Transitions has documented and noted that systematized firms grow 15 to 20% faster and sell at 2 to 4x higher multiples. Literally case in point with 2 clients of mine right in front of me. One was systematized, the other one wasn't. Smart Assets, another provider, says the top driver of premium valuation isn't revenue. It's transferability and predictability. Now, if you remember my story, advisor 1, whenever that client said, I don't know if something ever happened to him, was what we're going to do. That was the light bulb moment that went like, eureka, I need help. And he reached out, and now we're actively growing his business, and we're going to decentralize him and build a business that has higher valuation. But Smart Assets has actually confirmed that the top driver of premium valuation isn't revenue, it's transferability and predictability. And even further, M&A Advisor Insight says this: buyers pay more for certainty. There's your mic drop moment, friends. Advisor number 2 had certainty. They had a lower risk. I often use the term company-specific risk. Advisor number 2 had reduced the company-specific risk to much lower than advisor number 1. Advisor number 1 even said it to me. We're sitting in the meeting. He said, Justin, I'm dying here. I can't keep up. Dude, he literally said this. I'm like, man, we got to change this. He's like, I have sports cars in the garage. I have nice sports cars. I don't have time to drive them. Think about this. You work your life, fingers to the bones, to build income. And the very thing which provides the income for you to enjoy or reach the goals you had in your life, this particular advisor wanted a particular type of sports car, very, very expensive sports car, many hundreds of thousands of dollars for this car. And he can't even drive it. He doesn't have time. The very thing which provided the asset is the very thing holding him in bondage. Advisor number 2 made $200,000 per year less and walked away with $4 million more dollars. You see, friends, revenue, it does impress. Top line revenue impresses. But systems and freedom get you paid. Think about that. Oftentimes we, myself included, friends, we focus on revenue because it impresses us. Man, if I can just grow to 2 million, if I can grow to 4 million, if I can go, we're at $300 million in assets under management for this advisor, if whatever the data point is, we want to go to $1 billion in assets under management. That impresses you. That's a good ego stroke. But systems and freedom get you paid. Which one do you want? Do you want your ego stroked or do you want to get paid? You don't sell what you earn. You never sell what you earn. You sell what someone else can run without you. So many people call and they get on our free strategy call and they say, hey, Goodbread or whoever we're talking to, one of our strategists, man, I'm making $400,000 a year in take home pay. When we're like, fist bump, way to go. That's rocking it. Good job. But what they fail to realize, or perhaps maybe you, what you fail to realize is what you earn doesn't sell you, man. You sell what someone else can run without you. If you're in the business and the business cannot operate without you, don't sell the business. You've got to sell a business. You've got to build a business that can operate autonomously without you. Friends, look, Advisor 2 had a unique mindset. He wasn't just paid for the income. He actually said this, and I quote, I get paid to let go. Whew, man, there's a mic drop if ever there was one. So friends, I challenge you, download the case study. If you want to see the exact numbers side by side, all the details, again, I'm going over this on a podcast. You got to look at this case study. You can click the link below, download it, walk through it. So today we talked about two business owners, same revenue, same age. One was burned out and ultimately, if he sold the business, was going to walk away with a lot less. The other one, he learned how to multiply others. And if he sold the business, he'd walk away with a lot more. He'd walk away with a lot more money, yes, but also in peace, in value, and in legacy. Where are you choosing control over delegation? Where is it that you're holding on so tight to that if you just let it go, the company will accelerate? What would 76% fewer hours do for your family? Did you catch that? 76% fewer hours. Don't forget that. Advisor number 2 worked 76% fewer hours than advisor number 1 and then walked away with $4 million more had they sold. What would that do? If you had 76% fewer hours worked and you could invest it in your family or to your friends or to your fitness, or maybe you spend a little bit of time working on your faith, what would it do for you, for your family, for your legacy? I can't help but ask the question to myself often, and I want to ask you the same question I ask myself. Am I building a paycheck, or am I going to build a business that runs without me? See, friends, we're not just building a business. You're really building the next chapter of your life and the story that your kids are going to tell about you. This concept of freedom, I use it so much. It's literally one of the foundational moves in all of the Decamillionaire Way. This concept of freedom is not a mirage. It's not. Advisor number 2 is experiencing that literally as I speak right now. Freedom is the fruit of stewardship. Freedom is the fruit of good decisions. Valuation, the extra $4 million, it's just a scoreboard, dude. That $4 million is not going to change my client's life if they were to exit out of the business right now. It's not going to change the client's life. He's already living a life that he wants. That's where so many of us missed it. Control. That very thing that you want to hold on to right now is costing you more than you think. Being 100% right all the time is going to ruin your net worth. Freedom, man, it pays dividends far greater than you can imagine. So let me challenge you. Don't just build an income. Build freedom. Build value. Build something that lasts. Hope this helps you. Again, you may want to download this case study. It'll rock your world when you look at all the details. Till next time, y'all make it a great day.